All right, guys, I wanted to just talk about a little bit of advice for the Final Four. Which teams should you have in the Final Four? What's the right balance between 1, 2, 3 seeds, 4 seeds, maybe even lower seeds if you want to go with more of a Cinderella type team to end up making it. But, the Final Four is very important when it comes to if you can get 2 or 3 of those teams right. I mean, you're going to get such a massive bracket multiplier on a lot of these tournament challenge type things. It's very important that we understand kind of the overall odds and what are the proper teams to pick. And I'm going to go through my overall explanation on kind of some different teams I'm scoping out for the Final Four. A lot of this depends on the overall region that they get. Except for the 1 seeds. I mean, if you're a 1 seed, then, no matter the region, it's probably going to be pretty good. But I am going to go ahead and go through this. So this is just the standard bracket matrix. You've got all the 1 seeds. It's Alabama, Kansas, Houston, Purdue. Me personally, when it comes to this tournament in 2023, I am looking at 1 seed into the Final Four. And that team that I'm looking at is Houston University. So Houston is top 10 in terms of offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. They have a groin injury to their best guard, Marcus Sasser. He's questionable, which I think is great news. He's questionable today. Even if he doesn't play and they lose to Memphis, him being questionable means that he'll very likely play and be healthy during the tournament, but there is a little bit of a concern there. Kansas, the Bill Self thing with him being in the hospital, maybe he'll be back. I haven't, heard anything on that. But even if he is back, I think with Kansas, they won it last year and just repeating. I mean, I guess you could say they could make the Final Four and not repeat. But I just think this is a Kansas team that kind of struggles to score. They really struggled against Iowa State, even though they won that game, and then they got trounced by Texas. So I would say Kansas's ceiling is the Elite Eight, personally. I'm sure people disagree with that. That's fine. We'll see who ends up being right. Purdue, I think we can all agree they're pretty fraudulent. They have 1 player, and it's a center, Zach Edey. If he gets into foul trouble, it's going to be big problems for Purdue. If there's 1 seed that I could see losing to an 8 or a 9, it's Purdue. There's still kind of a little bit of a jousting match between Purdue and UCLA. We'll have to see if Purdue wins the Big Ten or not. But if they are the final 1 seed, they're the only 1 seed that I could see missing out on the Sweet 16. And then Alabama, listen, they're very similar to Houston. The metrics love them. The reason I'm not picking them for the Final Four, I'll be honest, I think it's karma. I think the Brandon Miller situation, what happened to Alabama after that situation, they played worse. I know they've had a good SEC tournament. I get it. A lot of people are going to be picking them to win the championship. I think they're going to be out at the Elite Eight. That's what I'll say about them. So when it comes to the Final Four, the 1 seed that I'm interested in, it's Houston University. They have no holes. They play unbelievable defense. They just destroyed Cincinnati, and a good Cincinnati team that was scoring like crazy. They didn't even score 50 against Houston's defense. They are complete. They don't have a great schedule. I understand that, but they're the team I'm looking at. Looking at the 2 seeds, you've got UCLA, Texas, Arizona, and Baylor. So it's interesting. A lot of people are going to probably pick Baylor. If you're picking a 2v15 upset, a lot of people probably going with Baylor losing. Now, personally, when it comes to a 2v15 upset this year, I would probably advise against it. The 115 seed I am interested in picking possibly is Colgate, but any of these teams making my Final Four, I am looking at one of the Pac-12 schools. So I'm interested in UCLA and Arizona. Texas, guys, I really can't explain it, but it seems like there's something off about Texas, and I think Texas might lose in the Sweet 16. I know they looked phenomenal in the Big 12 championship, unbelievable 20-point win over Kansas, but there's something off about Texas, and then I just don't think it's Baylor's year. Baylor, towards the end of the season, was struggling, but the thing is, with Baylor, I still respect that program, so I think Baylor is almost a guaranteed top or Sweet 16 type team. Make sure you have, unless Baylor gets a really bad draw, Baylor has 4+ offensive players. If they are a 2 seed, they're probably going to face a 7 in the second round. The concern there would be, what if they get Michigan State? Although Michigan State did look really bad in the Big Ten tournament, I would still be concerned if I was Baylor and the way they've been struggling against a Michigan State. But I do respect Baylor basketball, and when it comes to 2 seeds, the one team that I would be interested in, it's either UCLA or Arizona. Honestly, if UCLA did not have that injury to Jalen Clark, I would be heavily in on UCLA possibly heading back to the Final Four there. The 3 seeds, it's got to be Marquette. And Marquette might be a 2 seed. There's kind of some jousting between Baylor and Marquette. A lot of people think Marquette's actually going to be a 2 seed. But Marquette, winning the Big East, the win over UConn, I thought that was so impressive. And then they just completely blow out Xavier in the Big East championship. So Marquette, it was kind of a vision. It was a dream that I had 2 weeks ago about this Marquette team. They just haven't been relevant in a while in terms of college basketball, the landscape. And I just feel something. It's like I feel a Marquette-Houston Final Four game. I can feel it. There's a vibe going around. And I know other people feel it too because everyone's talking about it. If you are someone that's smart, it's Houston, it's Marquette. Maybe they'll be in the same region. If they are, I'm going to be pissed. But those are teams I'm very interested for the Final Four. Gonzaga, they've got a fatal flaw. They have a terrible defense, but I will say they could very easily be a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8 team due to their overall offensive efficiency. Kansas State is really wobbly. They do have elite guard play, which is extremely attractive for the tournament, but in general, will a 14 upset a 3? I don't know, but if one of these 3s lost, it would be Kansas State. And then UConn, just such a strong team. They're another team that I think you have to consider possibly winning the national title based on a number of different data points: good offense, good defense, phenomenally strong down the stretch. They did have the tough 2-point loss to Marquette in the Big East semifinal, but UConn is another team I am heavily looking at possibly making the Final Four. The thing with UConn, it heavily depends on what's their 1 seed. If their 1 seed is Houston or Bama, that concerns me. If it's Kansas or Purdue, I love UConn. Looking at the 4 seeds, Tennessee is very polarizing. I'm probably not interested in them. I know the analytics love them. They've got them as a top 5 overall team. Tennessee's just lost way too much in the second half of the season. I think they're like 6-6 in their last 12 games. Xavier, I'm not interested in. They've got a really good offense, but they have a very, very bad defense. And I know you could say Marquette is the same thing, but at least Marquette is like 55th in defense. Xavier, I think, is like 85th. Indiana was a team I was vibing with about a week ago, but the vibes are off right now with Indiana. I don't think I'm going to pick Indiana to go very far, even with the superstar senior center, Trace Jackson Davis, who's a veteran. Maybe I've got Indiana in the Sweet 16 if they've got a good draw, but I don't think anything after that. And then Virginia, they're probably going to lose in round 1. I think their ceiling is the round of 32. I am not high on Virginia. San Diego State, I think they lose in round 1 in a 5v12 game. I think Iowa State could lose in round 1. Duke is a team that's very intriguing. I see Duke possibly in the Elite 8. I don't see them in the Final 4. They are hitting their stride. TCU's not doing anything. Do not pick TCU to go further than the Sweet 16. Texas A&M is a team really hitting their stride. I could see a Sweet 16 run from A&M. We'll have to see how they close out here. Miami, I think they lose in round 1 against an 11 seed. If they face Rutgers, that's a loss to me for Miami. St. Mary's is a team I'm very interested in making a deep run. I look at a team that's very good at defense. I look at a team that has 4 significantly above average offensive players. Same thing with Kentucky. I'm very interested in Kentucky. I don't know about the Final Four, but Kentucky is a team I'm looking at. I'm seeing them struggle last year. I think they're due. If they get a 6v11 matchup, maybe they're facing a team in the first 4. What if they get Mississippi State? Well, they're not going to get Mississippi State because that's SEC versus SEC. What if they get like Arizona State? That's a very easy matchup, in my opinion, for Kentucky. They've got a three-point shooter. They've got Tshiebwe. You've got John Calipari. So Kentucky is a team, I think the Final Four is a little aggressive, but they intrigue me as a 6 seed to make it really deep and to knock off a 3 or a 2. So just looking at these top 6 seeds, I'm very interested in Houston. I'm very interested in UCLA or Arizona, depending on who gets a better draw. I'm very interested in Marquette. I'm very interested in UConn. I'm semi-interested in, I would say, St. Mary's and Kentucky as 6 seeds. And then looking, do you have a Cinderella? Is there a team? Creighton is way too inconsistent. I've just never been a fan of Missouri. I know they got a big win in the SEC tournament. I still don't like them. Northwestern's going to lose in round 1 to a 10 seed. Michigan State is a team I am intrigued with. I know they had a really bad loss to Ohio State, but if you look at the 3-point percentage of that game, it was a fluky game. Ohio State was 10 of 19 from 3. Let's be honest about that. And then, so this is something that's a very interesting dynamic. These next 2 teams, both Florida Atlantic and Arkansas, if they're both on the 8 line, which I don't think Florida Atlantic will be, the overall sentiment right now is Florida Atlantic will get bumped up to a 7 seed, so they'll face a 2 in the second round if they win. There's been maybe some inkling of me possibly going out on a limb and saying Florida Atlantic to the Final Four. It would probably be the craziest team in the Final Four since Loyola Chicago. It is one of those weird years where it seems like a team like this could make the Final Four. I would not advise it, but Florida Atlantic, the way they looked against UAB, it depends what 1 seed they get in their region. I will say that Florida Atlantic is 31-3 on the year. I do think they will be a 7 seed. And then Arkansas has really young, intriguing guards. They've got 2 5-star guards who are both true freshmen. They've got another, junior or senior guard that has experience. The Arkansas team has potential to upset a 1 seed in the second round if they face Purdue in the second round. I'm sure they're not going to draw Alabama because that would be an SEC on SEC. They'll probably draw maybe a Houston or Purdue, or, maybe UCLA gets a 1. Maryland, I'm not interested. Memphis, I'm not interested. Virginia Tech, I'm not interested. Memphis, I am interested. Memphis just deleted Tulane, who's a decent team. They won by about 40 points. Memphis is another high upside team. Final Four potential, I just can't go there, but they're interesting. Iowa, no thanks. Illinois, no thanks. Auburn, decent team, but no thanks. Boise State, no thanks. Penn State, I'm very interested in Penn State. The elite guard play, the way they've been playing, they're in the Big Ten Championship. USC, no thanks. Utah State, I was kind of vibing with them yesterday, but we kind of have a weird relationship right now, me and Utah State. I'm off of Utah State. Yesterday I was saying they were going to go far. Now I woke up, it's a weird vibe. Providence, no chance. Mississippi State, no chance. NC State, no chance. Rutgers, I like because of their defense. I think they're going to frustrate someone. But that is kind of just the overall situation in terms of that. So just looking at the analytics, you can see Houston, 10th overall in offensive efficiency, number 3 in defense. That checks out. That's a national championship winner. Alabama certainly passes the eye test too. They're 17-4. You want to be inside the top 20 in both of those, at least inside the top 30. UCLA, the number 2 defense in the country, 33 on offense. What you're looking for here is just like warts. Like Tennessee, it says they have the 49th best offensive efficiency. I don't think they're that good. I think they're even worse than that. I understand they have the best defense. You take a look, Gonzaga, the best offense, but the 80th best defense. Baylor has a major defensive wart. You take a look at a team like Marquette that I really like. They're climbing the board in terms of defense. They're up to 44th, and they've got the 9th best offense. So there are some teams. And then even teams like Kansas who are like inside the top 30. I'm just not a fan of Kansas. I'm not a fan of San Diego State. I'm not a fan of Creighton. Those are teams I'm not going to be picking to go deep based off of what I've seen. And then, another team, to me, A team I'm really struggling with right now is Texas. I'm really struggling with Texas. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but we will see. That's just kind of my current vibe on the Final Four. It's Houston, it's UConn, it's UCLA or Arizona. It's Marquette. And then maybe a Cinderella team. The other thing I'll say, I'm thinking about Kent State to the Elite Eight. That's the other thing I'm thinking about. So we'll see. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.